I had to change a setting. All right, we're good.
Okay, I will get started. My name is James Pepper. I'm the chair of the Vermont Cannabis Control Board. Today's November 2nd, 2022. It's 1 o'clock. So I will call this meeting to order. It's been 1 month since the first legal retail sales of cannabis in Vermont. Thought I'd give a brief progress report. To date, we have 291 licenses that we've approved as a board. 255 of those are cultivators, and 75% of those cultivators are tier 1 small cultivators. This is a market that is comprised of small cultivators in a way that no other state is. Pretty impressive. We have approved 16 retail applications. We've issued 14. I think 10 are currently open, and there's a few more that are coming this week. And in exciting statistic, we have approved 300 employee ID cards. We've been known to have some of the highest quality growers in the region, if not the country. And now these folks are getting a paycheck for their expertise. We know that there's some bottlenecks that this state has experienced. These are the same bottlenecks that every adult use state has experienced with respect to product manufacturing and testing capacity. And it's hard for the board to force new businesses to enter this space, but we are doing whatever we can to make it as easy as possible, particularly if you are a lab or a product manufacturer operating in the hemp space. We now have 18 approved product manufacturers and 3 licensed testing facilities. It's my understanding that one lab is currently expanding its capacity, and another lab that we licensed last week is now accepting samples for testing. We're starting to see some more variety in the products that are available on the adult use market. One thing I have to be a broken record about is that every cannabis product that's being sold to the public has to be registered with and approved by the CCB. And the fundamental promise of a regulated market is that consumers know what is in the products that they're purchasing and that those products have met certain minimum standards around testing, packaging, and labeling. Product registration is how the CCB can verify compliance with these basic tenets of our regulations. This process is not optional. We will pull non-registered products off your shelves. Also, operating without board approvals, including product registration, is one of our most serious offenses and can result in fines, suspension, or even revocation of your license. We're working our way through our product registration backlog. Every day, we're streamlining our processes to make them more efficient, but this is something we take very seriously. If anyone has questions about product registration, please email the board at ccb.products@vermont.gov. And a broader point I'd like to make is that it is incumbent upon everyone who is licensed to read our rules and to do their best to abide by them. We know this industry is new, and that there are going to be some growing pains. There are some ambiguities in our rules, and we know that there's some good faith mistakes that are being made. We want to give everyone the benefit of the doubt and take an education first approach.
Oh, you're saying to legitimately pass.
Yeah.
Right?
But ignorance, especially intentional ignorance of our rules, is not an excuse. I am baffled when I see things like a THC-infused beverage that doesn't have a child-resistant cap, or edibles that don't have a visible demarcation between servings. Things like that seem to me like either no one bothered to read the rules or they willfully disregarded them, and we don't have any tolerance for that. As someone who spent a lot of time in the legislature trying to convince people that tax and regulate was a good idea, I can tell you that a bad edibles op-ed in the New York Times and one Rocky Mountain Hider report gave skeptics enough fodder to delay passage of this policy by nearly half a decade. It will take only a handful of anecdotal evidence here in Vermont for people to demand that this program be rolled back or handed over to a small number of licensees that are easier to regulate. Obviously, it's not something we want, but this industry needs to be able to demonstrate for all the people that are watching that they can handle following the rules. And the board remains committed to listening to the industry, to reevaluating our rules, and to reducing regulations that don't serve our core mission of creating a safe, equitable, and effective market. And for those who want to stay in the illicit market, don't use social media or apps that are widely available to the public. When we get complaints about these types of businesses, our compliance staff is going to start referring them for criminal investigation. Basically, the window of the gray market is closing. From our perspective, it's not fair to the nearly 300 businesses that have been approved and are complying with the law. And from just a general concerned citizen perspective, it's a flagrant violation of the basic health, safety, and youth prevention precautions that have been driving this shift in attitude about cannabis more broadly. We can't force anyone to join the regulated market. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for you to get a license, with the caveat, of course, that cannabis is still considered a Schedule I controlled substance. But I would invite anyone who's operating on the illicit market to give us a call and talk to us about getting a license. It's not as hard as you might think. And just a final reminder that our staff is organizing a live Q&A session focused on testing, inventory tracking, and product registration on November 21st at 7 p.m. The link to join will be posted on our website. So please just collect your questions and bring them to that session. Other than that, just need to approve the minutes from our last meeting on October 26th.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Bryn, I think I can turn things over to you.
Okay. All right. Here we go again. We have our adult use and medical cannabis register for the week of 10/26 to 11/1. We start with our medical cannabis program numbers. A little bit of a busier week last week with 77 renewal applications coming in, issued 44 new patient cards. Staff are currently processing applications that were received on and after September 28th. So we continue to remain within our 30-day time frame for reviewing and issuing licenses and renewals. Moving on to the adult use data. These are the numbers for adult use license applications and employee ID card applications. These numbers are current as of this morning. So we have approximately 46 new applications that the staff have received in the last 7 days. The majority of those, as is typical for the last several weeks, are new employee ID card applications. I think 46 new 41, new employee ID card applications. We have 2 new retail applications, 2 new cultivation applications, and 1 new manufacturing application. And staff has approved an additional 13 employee ID cards in the last week. And as the chair pointed out, we have issued over 300 licenses to date, which does feel like a big milestone. With that, I'll move on to our little map of where our retail locations are. And as we mentioned last week, this will be posted to our website and updated each week with the dropped pins on the map and a little summary of where all of our proposed retail establishments will be. So as a reminder, these locations are where retail licensees and retail applicants are proposing to be in the state. And there are 3 additional on this map and in this list than there were last week. And two of them are in a jurisdiction that already has a proposed or existing retail establishment, and one is a new municipality that may host a retail establishment. So that's the update there. I'll move on to our staff recommendations for a license. So as with every week, these applicants have demonstrated compliance with the board rules and with statute. They've met all the requirements for their license, and staff are recommending them for approval by the board. So I'll go through them by submission number this week. We have submission number 92, applying for an outdoor Tier 1 cultivator license. Submission number 672, applying for an indoor Tier 2 cultivation license. Submission number 699, applying for a mixed Tier 1 cultivation license. Submission number 871, applying for an indoor Tier 1 cultivation license. Submission number 924, applying for a Tier 3 manufacturing license. Submission 934, applying for a wholesale license. Submission 1067, applying for an indoor Tier 2 cultivation license. Submission number 1243, applying for a Tier 2 manufacturing license. And submission 1615, applying for a retail license. And those are your 9 applicants that are being recommended for your approval today. Move on to, this is a status report on our license amendments. We have 1 additional amendment that is in the queue, again, for a name change. Then I'll move on to our social equity data. We have 3 additional social equity applicants that have come in, proposed social equity applicants that have come in the last week. And this is where they are in the queue in this table here. 13 have their social equity status determination pending, and this is where they fall in the queue. The majority of them are in incomplete status. And this week, staff has 1 recommendation for social equity status approval, and that's submission number 1035. Staff is recommending approval of social equity status for submission number 1035 because the applicant meets the criteria for social equity individual applicant as defined in board rule. And staff is recommending 1 applicant for denial of social equity status because they do not meet the criteria for social equity applicant as defined in board rule, and that is submission number 1575. And that is your register for this week.
Hey, any questions for Bryn? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the staff recommendations?
I move that the board accept each of the recommendations as presented to us by staff in this meeting.
I will second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay, well, why don't we move on to public comment then? We'll handle this the same way we always do. If you join via the link, please raise your virtual hand. We'll do our best to call on you in the order that you've raised your hand, and then we'll move on to people that join via the phone.
Keith.
Hello. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you, Keith.
Thank you. Comments. I have just a few. Can the CCB put out, since there's a month of data now available for sales of all products in the state of Vermont and how much revenue has been taken in from the sales of all products that could be public knowledge, and break it down by product listings from concentrates to flour? is there going to be any guidance on safety protocols for manufacturers? Recently, there's a lot of news out of Massachusetts where there has been a death from an employee working in a facility at Trulieve that died, and there seems to be no guidance on safe protocols in manufacturing facilities in Vermont. And how are you going to work with OSHA? Can you also please put all license holder applications online for public viewing so we can see who the bankers are, who the investors are, and who the license holders are as well? That's public knowledge, should be public knowledge as well. Can you please just build seeing you're making everybody pay a $50 retail fee for all products, can you build a public catalog of all products for not only the consumers, but for the healthcare providers, for the police departments, EMT service providers, and other healthcare professionals that work in substance abuse, other things, or for school jurisdictions throughout the state of Vermont, so they can see if they find any of these products to make sure that they are legal products that have been found are not illicit products. What are you guys doing for social equity businesses to remain sustainable is another one of my comments. I'd like to know how you guys are going to help them to stay sustainable. And what are you doing to back them and keep them going and help them understand, navigate the business of being a business and in a new business and growing to foster their business equity and gaining backers and stuff like that. What are you doing for safe banking? And are you guys going to write a letter to the federal government, as New York and New Jersey has done recently, discussing the Safe Banking Act, and that you guys will support safe banking from the state of Vermont, encouraging safe banking so that we can come out of the illicit market, and banking can be more transparent for businesses in the new legal market here in Vermont and across the other states in other jurisdictions. And are there currently any BIPOC retailers been approved for a retail license in the state of Vermont? Is one of my other comments. I have not seen any individuals that are from the BIPOC community that have been licensed as retailers. My other question is, is there a plan in a business plan? And it's not a question, it's a comment. Is there a plan in the business plan for retailers to hire a certain number of BIPOC people from the lesbian, gay, bi, transgender community, and people with disabilities to be on their staff to make it equal and equity in all communities and for all businesses? Or is it just hire as go and train them? I recently tried to reach one of the vendors that do the training for safe vendor training, and I was unable to reach them. And they're in my local community, and they did not respond. I called them, and I did reach out to them via email twice and 2 phone calls. And their information is listed on your website, and it wasn't there. My other comment is, seeing probably in the time period you guys are existing with your 3 board members here, will you do that all 23 other states use metric, basically, and if federal legalization happens, are you guys going to switch over to something that is already the de facto track and trace system in the United States and have to regroup another $250,000 to rebuild a new track and trace system because yours is different than everybody else's, is my other comment. And I'd like to find some information on these things seen on the website. And I have one more thing. With your track and trace system, how do you prevent looping? And if you don't know what looping is, I can give you a brief description of it. If you'd like, if one of you
we know what looping is.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Keith. And please submit the request for records through our public records portal.
Dave.
Hey, thanks, everyone. So I think, as a licensee and as a lawyer for other licensees, I think it would be useful to have a published list of the approved products, but also a published list of the products that you've ordered pulled. We get outreach from various manufacturers of products, both licensed and unlicensed, asking us to carry their products, and some of those products look pretty fishy. Others look good, but how do we know what's what other than guesswork? So having those published lists, I think, just would be helpful for the industry. I just not to get into a back and forth with Keith. I think there are some data things that would be appropriate for you guys to publish. Like if you were to publish aggregated, disidentified sales data by the month, I think that would be fine. Like, I don't think that would expose any particular licensee to, too much having their personal financial stuff aired out in public. But aggregated data on what the industry is doing in terms of sales per month, I think would be very appropriate and interesting for the public and for licensees to see. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave.
Tito.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say thank you for issuing our license. So pumped to finally get started.
Shut up, Tito.
And but just a quick note, I did send in a waiver request email a few weeks ago, just reaching out about getting a response on that. But that's it. Thank you guys so much. We're pumped to get started and help put Vermont on the map. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Tito. Anyone else who joined via the link, please just raise your virtual hand. And if you've joined via the phone and would like to comment, you can hit *6 on your phone to unmute yourself. Okay. I'll close the public comment window. That's the last thing on our agenda. Julie or Kyle, is there anything you want to say before we adjourn for the day?
No, thank you.
Set on my end.
All right, great. Then I will adjourn the meeting. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you next week.